So, after a lot of hard work behind the scenes, and thank you to the staff who helped make this happen, the proposal is now to simply note the update, the request, and agreeing that the Mount Pleasant Community Centre and Residents Association make a submission on the draft annual plan, which we can take this to be, but then agrees to make an additional loan of up to $428,000 interest-free for 5 years if no further funding is secured by the 30th of June. So that gives a fallback position. Notes that the decision to grant an interest-free loan is contrary to the community loan policy, but we are enabled to do that as long as we declare that it's an inconsistency. The reasons for the inconsistency is due to the unusual circumstances relating to the gap in funding due to insurance coverage and the group's need to process the project progress, and then agree that the council project manager continue to support the association to ensure that the project is successful and is delivered in a cost-effective manner, and request council staff to provide information on this issue to help develop a process which will help ensure that council does not receive last-minute requests such as this in the future. So that gives us a bit of background in terms of that. Did you have a question?
Yes, I do, and it really relates to some ambiguity in point 4. Presumably what we're doing is agreeing to make an additional loan of up to $428,000, and that if no further funding is secured by 30th of June, then that loan be interest-free for 5 years. The grant of the loan isn't conditional on if no further funding is secured by 30th of June. So if we put a full stop after $428,000 and added the words "this loan to be," I think that makes it clear. I'm assuming that that's our intention, to grant the loan now.
They won't need to borrow the money if we give them the money.
Andrew, can you make
So it's not a question of making the loan, granting the loan now, and then assuming we put the money on budget in the annual plan, the loan is superseded by the grant.
They just know that the money's there if they need it.
But the money they won't receive the money until the 1st of July in any event. Because I understood that our intention was to make the money available now, and then it would contra on the 1st of July.
Let's hear.
So the intent is that the loan will not be available unless the group require it after the 30th of June, and so they won't require it if some other funding is granted or found. So they're not getting the loan unless they don't get alternative funding.
So the loan won't be available until the 1st of July.
No, they won't need to.
And the loan will only be available in the event that annual plan funding isn't made available.
That's correct.
The loan provides a surety to allow them to get into a contract. That's what that loan is there for.
Yeah.
Does that not then mean that the loan should be made available now, though?
They don't need to draw down on it.
No,
They don't need to draw down just now.
They haven't drawn down on the first loan yet.
Yeah, that's fine.
The surety of the contract.
So can we be clear, are the community group behind this actually happy with the solution?
Yes.
So the community group has a meeting in May.
Yes.
Well, I'll take the two councillors.
Can I just speak to it if I can? We've finished debate. Can I speak to it?
I think there's another question,
Okay.
but
well, I just wasn't sure if it moved, so I was happy to move, and I'd like to speak to it as well. But just wanted to.
Yanni moves, Paul seconds. Did you have a question?
Yes, please. Yeah, just over how kind of watertight number 4 is, because in essence the council broadly is still guaranteeing funding actually prior to the adoption of an annual plan.
We're making a completely separate decision. We're going to make...
Providing a loan facility.
We're making a loan available.
Okay, all right, and then my other question is, doesn't this still set a precedent for any other group?
Yep. I mean, yes it does, but that's why number 8 is there, because I don't want to be put in this position again.
Okay.
Right, so Yanni.
Cool. Thank you. We don't stand enough nearly in this chamber, I think, so it's good. It's good from a health and safety point of view. So, I mean, look, thank you for staff working with the group to come up with a solution. It's maybe not the most elegant way of doing things, but actually, to me, this is really important. This is a community that was hit really hard by the earthquake. When the community board received the first report into the loss of facilities across the city, what came out was the Hagley Ferrymead board had lost a very large percentage of its community facilities. And, you know, on top of that, you had a lot of destruction, and often overlooked that Mount Pleasant, I think something like a third of the housing has to be rebuilt on the hill, maybe more. It's quite significant, the damage and the stress that people are under. And despite all of that, this community group has tried to work with the council and with the community to return their community centre back to operation. And they've had the temporary transitional one, which the community board has supported, and now they're working on the permanent. And I'm mindful of remembering the comment that was made by the RSA in regards to the Bridge of Remembrance just recently, and that was actually, although they weren't happy to start with that the bridge had taken so long, they're reassured, and in hindsight I think believe that it was great that we actually built the long-term everlasting solution rather than simply rushing in and fixing it straight away. And I thought that was quite powerful statement, that sometimes it's better to do things once and do them properly rather than have to come back time and time again to add on and to fix. And dare I mention New Regent Street. So I think this is really exciting, and I know it's been a lot of hard work, but I would like to encourage councillors to support this group and these resolutions, because I think certainly we do have a moral obligation around dealing with the undervaluation of the insurance for replacement. And I personally don't think there'll be many other groups that are in a similar situation, but if they are, then I have no problem providing the support that we can to deal with those issues that arose through no fault of the group and no fault of the community, but simply because the amount that we had for insurance was not enough to replace the facility post-earthquake. So I urge you to support this resolution favourably. I think this is a really positive step forward for a community that has had to deal with a lot of suffering and stress, and it would certainly be welcome in terms of the assistance.
Cool. I won't repeat some of the stuff that my colleague has mentioned, but what I would say is that I'm actually confident we're going to get a unanimous decision around this table today to support this resolution. I'm actually certain of this here, because why? Because post-earthquake, a lot of us have found ourselves in positions we didn't find ourselves in before the earthquake, and one of those is as a landowner and a property owner, I'm having to rebuild and go through insurance issues myself, as most people in the city have had to. What you've actually also found is actually that property owners have now found themselves wearing the shoes of a developer, which is quite a big step for all of them. The community group here has actually found themselves in those shoes of being a developer, and they are difficult shoes to wear, and they learn things along that process, as we have through this process found there's been a gap in the things that we do as a council. So I know this community group have put a lot of effort into this here. I know how much stress they're under. And if you've ever built a home, I've said this actually in the informal this morning, you've built a home and you've come across an issue, the stress is quite significant because you have your largest asset, and if you've got loans against that asset, it does place a lot of pressure on you. So again, I'm certain you're all going to support this here today. I also want to thank the community group for the effort they've put in to a sector of our community that they seem to be looking after on our behalf. And I also want to thank the council staff, and Lee in particular, for the work you've been doing with this community group here and actually helping resolve some of their issues. And maybe if we had a Lee Butcher there at the beginning, we might not have actually found ourselves here today. So again, I look forward to the unanimous decision today, and I want to thank you all for actually supporting. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Tim.
I guess to point 8, which is the real concern here, is we got this at the last minute, and it's absolutely no fault of the groups, but I want to make sure that we as a council somehow get a process where we have more leads or whatever it is, because we cannot just keep going on estimates and suddenly get surprises. We just cannot do that. It's been 5 years, we've been through all this. We should at least have some form of process that will prevent this. I mean, I do, you know, Derek and Linda, you've done an amazing job with your team, absolutely outstanding, and I commend you for it. But that doesn't excuse us from having a process to A, support you, but also ensure that we don't end up in this process again. Thank you.
Pauline, Andrew.
Yes, thanks, Tim. Following on from that, I'm wondering if we want to strengthen 8 by perhaps putting some wording in there that speaks to walking alongside community groups, whether it's this one or another one.
Exactly what we want.
Yes,
I added that.
Yes, but do we want to strengthen it with some
We
more
know
wording?
exactly what we want.
All right, if you're happy
we
with
need
that.
to absolutely work with communities.
Yeah.
We can't abandon them
Yeah.
to do things on their own when they're doing things. And I you know, I mean, I wanted to speak on this myself, but
That's
you know,
okay.
but I don't want everyone to just continue to debate something that's going to happen. It's
Yeah, and it's also, once this facility and others are operational, they're on our land, but they're run by community groups, that we continue that wraparound service for them, particularly when things go up and down like that. Your volunteers wax and wane. We need to keep them up here. So thank you. Great.
So can you in front of the word process, right, wrap around, because it is a wraparound.
Yeah, that's good.
So that we're integrally connected at every level. It's the same with the Aranui Community Centre, exactly the same. You know, we want to have a partnership arrangement, but then they have to apply for contestable funding for the people to work there, and it's nuts. So we've actually got to have a wraparound process that works.
Is it a wraparound end-to-end process?
Well, a wraparound process, that covers it, but look, let's not get too complicated.
It's wrapped up, it's not around, there's a good need.
The circle of life.
Andrew?
And it's good that we're having this particular debate, because there have been a number of examples, and we're really pleased to see them, where community groups are working in partnership with council and delivering community facilities that traditionally might have been provided by council. The Governor's Bay Jetty repair would be one example of this, Aranui is another, Edgware Pool will be another, and we'd like to think that we will see more examples of where communities are working very closely in partnership with council to develop community facilities that are actually owned by the communities. And we have an activity management plan that that encourages exactly this kind of thing, where communities step up to take ownership and management of community facilities. So having ways of working that support that is exactly what we need to be doing. We're doing things in quite a new and different way, and community groups are doing things in quite a new and different way, and we just need to make sure that we've got good processes to support community groups so that we arrive at really good quality outcomes. Because I think it's absolutely great that we've got a community group in Mount Pleasant that have stepped up to do this, that have spent all of that time as volunteers, that have gone way above and beyond what anybody would expect to deliver what I'm sure will be an absolutely fantastic facility. And I'm really pleased that we've been able to work through this today to get to an outcome that works, both in the short term, the medium term and the long term. So I'll be very pleased to support this today.
Yeah. Actually, well then maybe taking on board what everyone said, that the last wording, number 8, instead of does not receive last minute requests such as this in the future, is maybe is not surprised by last minute request So no, don't rewrite everything that's already there. Just
Why don't we actually say, so that council can work better with community groups?
Yeah. I'm going to, which will help ensure that council.
The wraparound covers it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a wraparound process, but it's not surprised by last minute. It's kind of it's the.
No
it's the
surprises
lack
policy.
of time for preparation. That's the issue.
Yep.
So I think that's captured it a little bit better than sort of.
And I think we understand what you want. And the information.
Yeah, I think that they're very clear. All right, so I will put that motion. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Carried.
Unanimous.
Very good. Thank you.
Well done,
thank
Derek.
you. Thank you very much. Right.